Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Ask Mom About Real Estate. We're super excited to be here today. I'm Mac, I'm the son.
I'm Becca. I'm the mom.
If you've ever been around real estate in any way, shape, or form, then you've probably heard the term equity. Equity is something that I've heard frequently with my mom being a real estate agent, obviously, but it's something I still am really unfamiliar with. And so today, that's what we're going to discuss so that we can learn alongside each other. Okay, Mom, do you just want to explain what equity is?
Sure. Equity is actually one of my favorite things because this is why people should always want to buy or invest in real estate. Because it's kind of like this really cool way to make money by just owning something. And lots of times things depreciate in value instead of increase in value. So I super love that homes always, and any real estate, always appreciates over time. So when you purchase a home, in a few years when you go to sell it, theoretically, not always, but theoretically, you should always be able to make money. It will always increase in value. So whatever that money is, whatever that difference is from when you first purchase it to when you sell it, that's yours in your pocket. It's kind of like a savings account with a little percentage rate that you get as
Okay.
you own it.
So equity is essentially like what you own
Yeah,
of the home.
the part, yes.
Okay, so let's say you're a new home buyer and they suggest, right, real estate suggests as a whole that as a new home buyer, you put down 20%
Yes.
when you purchase the home for the first
Yes,
time. So
sure.
just in simple terms, you put down 20% as a new home buyer on a $300,000 home, then you own 20% of that home and the rest of it is owned by the bank,
bank.
technically? Okay, gotcha.
Anywhere that they get the rest of the money from.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so also when you talk about appreciation and depreciation on your house, you're essentially saying your house will always increase in value. And so that's why it's awesome to have equity because over time, no matter what, you're just building up value to yourself as a person. Your net worth is essentially increasing.
Absolutely. So on average, historically here in America, homes have increased in value between 4 to 5% every single year that you own your home. The only time things went down, and it always fluctuates, but the only time that you actually lost money was during the crash in that 2008 period. However, if the graphs that we show, and I think we're going to probably put them on there.
Yeah.
The graphs that we can show you later, if things had continued to grow during that time, as they historically had done, our home values, even though it feels like we have increased in crazy values for the last 5 to 6 years, people think they're overpaying for homes. Technically, this is where our market would have been if things had increased at that 4 to 5% every single year. The reason why they popped up so fast is they just corrected. And so when people think they're super overpaying for homes, technically they're paying about the same price that they should have if we were on that trajectory from before 2008.
I've definitely talked to a lot of people who are worried that there will be another crash just like we had in 2008. What do you think? Do you think that will happen again?
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, but my opinion is, and don't quote me on this, but my opinion is the reason why we had that crash was because we had some crazy financing laws that were happening at the time where people were actually borrowing more than what their home was worth. And so the lenders were actually giving them too much money so that when the economy, naturally as it does, it ebbs and flows, when the economy came down during that time, then people lost so much money on their homes because they were losing jobs. So they had to sell their homes and they were upside down in their homes. So we ended up having a ton of foreclosures and a lot of bankruptcies during that time. And so it was the financing laws that caused that crash, not the economy. The economy contributed, obviously. And I'm not an economist, so I don't talk about that very often. But I will tell you that there was a lot of different factors at the time. But now that we have stricter laws, that form of a crash should never happen again. That's what I've been told, at least by all the analysts.
Right.
So obviously, if there's something crazy like natural disasters or like something big that happens in the world,
Like COVID?
like COVID, we even thought during the pandemic we would have another crash. And it actually helped us correct the market quicker because there was so much real estate moving throughout the country. Because people were moving, they could work mobily and all that stuff. And we actually ended up having an increase in real estate sales since COVID.
Interesting. So COVID, in return, COVID has made real estate more healthy, essentially.
It did, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, back to going back to equity, thinking about how it's what you own, how do you increase, because obviously you can make your mortgage payments each month to own a further part of the house that you live in. But what are some other things that you can do that would add to the property of your home and appreciation of it? Maybe like home renovations or something like that.
Oh, that's a good question. So home renovations, obviously, if you were to purchase a home that had like an unfinished basement and you finish the basement, you're adding a bedroom, you're adding a living room, you're adding a bathroom. And in real estate, when we're evaluating homes, we actually count a bedroom for like $5,000 to $10,000, depending on the size, and a bathroom $4,000 to $10,000, whatever it is. So you will increase your value if you were like to finish spaces. Remodeling's a little bit trickier because just because you have remodeled and spent $100,000 on this beautiful kitchen that you love, doesn't mean you're going to get $100,000 back. So if you're adding like spaces or you're adding a yard, if you're adding, you'll add value. But if you're remodeling, you have to kind of counsel with a realtor if you're doing it to sell your home. I would highly recommend you counsel with a real estate professional because they're the ones that can help you know what would actually add value and what's just going to cost you money that you won't get back.
Just going to say for like an investment property, for instance, is that a really good example where an investment property could possibly be, when you're looking to invest in a home, looking more for something that would be able to add to rather than just improve?
Yes and no. So like, excuse me, yes, but the short answer is yes. But the long answer is when I help somebody buy like a flip, we need to make sure that they're purchasing at a certain price and to create enough where there's going to be some sort of extra that they get at the end because they're going to purchase, spend money, and then we want to have like whatever is this gap that we can actually sell it for, that's the money they're going to make.
Gotcha. So thinking of new home buyers, because of the market that they're purchasing in, and let's say they're looking for a specific city, but they can only afford it on the outskirts of the city where things are really, newly developed and there's not much out there, but they know and they're pretty confident through their realtor that those things will, a Walmart, for instance, could be in the town, in the next year. And other things will be further developed within the city so that they'll, be in a really nice area within the next few years. But right now, because it's farther out, they can afford it still. So thinking about that for appreciation terms and for equity, building and increasing the value of your home right now, how would that affect their increase of their home over time, especially quickly? Because obviously you can sign a 30-year mortgage, so it'd take you, 30 years to pay off this house to own it fully, but their house would increase from, $300,000 to $400,000 in just a few years because of the value of living in a more developed area as it develops.
If I understand you correctly, what you're asking is if somebody purchases a home where they can afford at the time, but it's not necessarily maybe where they want to be forever, or they're not super excited about being somewhere that doesn't have all the amenities that they want, but it's the home that they can actually afford currently, will their price increase once it gets built up down there?
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. The more the home, it's all about supply and demand, right? So the more that home is in demand, because once that gets built up, there will be more demand. And so their home would probably go up in value a little bit just because there's more built up around there. That's actually happened in Queen Creek just since I've lived here in the past 3.5 years, where your dad and I were kind of on the outskirts, and the home has actually raised in value as it's been built up a little bit more, as is all of Queen Creek. Queen Creek has increased in value just because we've built up, and it's still building.
Right. So it's it's still a big benefit for people who may not be able to afford currently what they want to look somewhere outside when they know that there will be things developed there, especially a lot of the times within new developmental areas. There's a lot of plans already set in stone for these big,
Absolutely.
retailers and things like that.
And that's something a realtor could help you out with to know what is going in at that time. But in a nutshell, my son, I want you to know real estate will always go up in value, no matter where you're located. It will always go up in value, just like we talked about at the beginning.
Okay, so just last question before we wrap up. Obviously, owning a further part of your home gives you more freedom, right? Within your finances,
Absolutely.
within the ability to do whatever you want to with
Borrow
your home.
against it
Borrow
if you
against
needed
it,
to. Yeah.
things like that. And so, what are some ways or tips that people may need to know to help pay off their mortgage quicker and to be able to gain that freedom?
My favorite tip to give, especially my first-time homebuyers, because they've never had a mortgage before, my favorite tip is that typically, you get a 30-year mortgage. A lot of people get paid every other week in their paycheck. So I recommend to them that they pay half of their mortgage each paycheck. And at the end of the year, they actually end up making one extra mortgage payment in that year because you usually get paid 3 times in 1 month or in 2 months of the year. And at the end of that, you've actually saved about 10 years on your mortgage. So if you pay just one extra mortgage payment a year, you actually go from a 30-year mortgage to a 20-year mortgage. And like your dad and I, we never structured it that way because we got paid differently.
Right.
But we just paid extra every single month. I just ended up paying an extra couple $100 a month when we were living in our home that we bought in Idaho Falls. And we had been able to pay down quite a bit so that we were able to have a lot of money to move here to Arizona.
Well, yeah, that helped you be able to, because you hadn't paid off your home in Idaho, but that helped you be able to gain more from the sell.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that tip.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously we talked about a few things with equity, but I guess just really simply, why would you think equity is important?
Well, just like at the very beginning when I was talking about, it's kind of like a little savings account. Like that's how I think about it in my head. When you purchase a home, it's kind of like your little nest egg, and you're able to increase in value without having to put in more money all the time, But once you have a good amount of equity, you can either sell your home and take it and put it into another home, which gives you a lot more buying power. If you have $100,000 equity, instead of only having like $2,000 or $3,000 to put down, when you put more money on your next home, it makes your payment lower because your mortgage will be lower. Or lots of people will take money and borrow against their equity. So if you own $100,000, you can say we need to remodel a bathroom, and they'll take $5,000 or $6,000 out of their equity. You can borrow against what you own. You own that money. And so you can do home renovations, like your dad and I have done home renovations borrowing against our homes. We've paid off extra debt that we incurred because of medical expenses. We've done lots of different things to be able to allow ourselves to purchase investment properties with the money that we have inside of our homes. So it's such a I love real estate for that reason.
Yeah.
It gives you power in your finances.
Yeah. So would you say, obviously you're a little biased as a realtor,
Obviously.
but would you say that real estate or owning a home is one of the greatest assets that you can have to your name?
For sure. 100%. For the very reason that we first started this little podcast episode, because it always increases in value.
Yeah.
You drive a car off the lot, you lose money instantly, right? But when you buy a home, you start earning money instantly. I love it.
That's cool. I love that. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for joining the very first episode of Ask Mom About Real Estate. We're super grateful for all of you guys watching and listening in wherever you are. Remember, you can find us at any podcast, wherever you may listen. And also on YouTube, we have video form and our socials, Ask Mom About Real Estate. But with that being said, I'm Mac, I'm the son.
I'm Becca, I'm the mom.
And we'll see you later.